Hi everyone. So today I'm going to talk about the two key sources of crime data in the US, the Uniform Crime Reports or UCR and the National Crime Victimization Survey or NCVS. Both are super important for understanding crime, but they collect data and their information in very different ways, which has a big impact on the kind of data they produce. So first, when discussing UCR, it's important to note that UCR is collected by the FBI and it's based on crimes reported to law enforcement. So whenever a crime is reported to the police, it gets counted in the UCR, and it covers major offenses that include homicide, robbery, and assault. So pretty much big and serious crimes. And one of the UCR's biggest strengths is its consistency. Since it's collected by police departments across the country, the data is standardized, which makes it great for tracking crime trends over time or comparing crime in different cities or states. So when it comes to serious crimes like homicide, the UCR is highly reliable because those crimes are almost always reported. Uh, but the UCR only captures crimes that are reported to the police. So, for example, if the victim of a crime doesn't report it, that crime pretty much never makes it into the UCR database. And as we do know, a lot of crimes like domestic assault or sexual assault often go unreported. So, not all police departments report crime in the same way. So, there's a lot of variability in how accurate or complete the data might be. Now, when discussing the NCVS, the National Crime Victimization Survey, like I said, it's completely different. Instead of relying on police reports, the NCVS collects data by surveying people directly. They ask individuals about their experiences with crime, whether they reported it to the police or not, and this is a huge advantage because it helps us capture the crimes that go unreported, the dark figures of crime also, so to say. One of the big strengths of the NCVS is that it gives us a much fuller picture of crime in society. For example, it's very valuable for understanding crimes like sexual assault or domestic violence, which victims don't report often. The NCVS also asks a lot of detailed questions, so we get insight into things like who the victims are, what happened during the crime, and why they may or may not have reported it to the police. But it is important to note that the NCVS does have its own limitations. It doesn't cover any type of crime. Homicides, for example, obviously can't be reported by victims, so it doesn't cover them. It also doesn't include commercial crimes, so if someone robs a store, that's not captured here. Plus, the survey relies on people remembering and accurately reporting their experiences, which can sometimes lead to errors and omissions. And since the survey only talks to people living in households, it misses out on populations like the homeless or those in institutions who might also experience crime. So now we're going to talk about which one I personally consider more reliable. I personally consider that NCVS is more reliable, and my reasoning is simple. It includes both reported and unreported crimes. This is especially important when studying sensitive crimes like domestic violence or sexual assault. The ones that victims are less likely to go to the police, and the NCVS gives a broader, more inclusive view of violence in society, capturing those hidden crimes that the UCR just can't. That said, the UCR is still very useful, particularly for crimes like homicide, which are almost always reported. But overall, for a researcher focused on understanding the full scope of violence, I feel like the NCVS gives a more complete and more complete and nuanced data. Thanks for listening.